Adobe Bridge is an application used by creative professionals to manage all of their assets in one convenient, centralized location. Creatives use Bridge for importing photos and video directly from their digital cameras, easily navigating their computers with the built-in navigation bar, organizing files into stacks and collections, batch renaming files for a more streamlined workflow, placing files into other applications with drag and drop functionality, and quickly converting files to JPEG format for web distribution. Bridge is the hub of the Adobe Creative Suite, and it integrates seamlessly with all of the Creative Suite products. Bridge gives creative professionals the tools they need to streamline their workflow and manage all of their assets, including photos, videos, and more.
Although this lesson series is essentially about Photoshop CS6, I don't think we can go much farther without talking about a very important piece of the Creative Suite puzzle, and that's Bridge. Bridge has been around since Adobe version 7, actually, not CS, but just 7. So that's a long time ago, and it used to be part of the program itself. In CS1 that is, they actually split it apart and made it a separate application. Its primary purpose in life is for organization of your images, cataloging them, keywords, things like that. So let's do a quick run around the interface. Let me show you a couple of the preferences and get started in this chapter. If you look over here on the upper left, you have two areas called Favorites and Folders. The Favorites area is important because we can add things into that area that we're working on to save us time. For example, these right here were actually added by the Bridge. I'll show you that in a second. But these are ones that I added. Each one of those contains image files, outputs, and exercise files for this class. By clicking on one of those, you automatically select, and then the images will appear over here. If I come over here and click on one, you can see it will change the preview over there if I want to do that. Down here, we have filters, and you can see there are 170 images inside of this particular folder I'm on, and you can see things like the dates that were modified, the ISO speed ratings. What do these do? Well, they help you actually find what you need, and we'll filter a little bit later in this chapter. You have something called collections. Collections allow you to create temporary groups of images that are not necessarily even in the same folders for a particular job. And then you've got export right here, which is kind of cool. A lot of us have Flickr pages and Facebook pages. Photoshop.com is a new site. If you set this up correctly, and you want one of these images to, say, go onto your Flickr page, all you got to do is drag it right on top of there, and it will do it automatically. So that's not too bad. Over here, you have a preview. And if we click on one of these, it'll change and show us a larger view, obviously. And then down here, you have metadata. Now, metadata is obviously the information on the image saved by the camera, shutter speeds, ISO, etc. And you have keywords over here, and it gives you some default ones to start with. Let's look at some of the preferences. If we come up to the word Adobe Bridge CS6 on a Mac, or the word Edit in Windows, go down to Preferences. Just a couple of them. In general preferences, there's a couple of things here I'll mention. For example, we can change the background very easily with a click of a button, but you can also do it with this slider right here. The other slider controls the background in here next to your images. I usually like to keep that a little bit darker, and you can change that to your own requirements. This color right here, the word Essentials is in, is called an accent color. So the best way to show this to you is to keep your eye up here. And if I go in here, say change to Ruby, you can see it changes the color. Aesthetics. What do you want it to do? Let's go into 2 or 3 more of these areas. Like, for example, metadata. You can choose what you see in the metadata panel by selecting these items right here. If we go into labels, and we can label our particular images, and we can decide what those colors mean. The defaults are select, second, approved, review, and to do. Change that if you want to. File type associations is an important one to me. A chapter or 2 ago, I talked about opening up an image from the desktop. But if I open a JPEG from the desktop, the computer assumes I want to open it up in preview, so I have to right-click on it. But if I right-click on any one of these JPEGs over here, they'll open in Photoshop because I told it to. Right here. These file type associations override the operating system. But there's another thing to take into consideration here. Bridge is not just for Photoshop. Remember that. Adobe Bridge can manage your Excel spreadsheets, your Microsoft Word documents. It doesn't matter. Adobe Illustrator, InDesign, whatever you want to do, and the associations are right here. Go to Cache. In Cache, I just want to mention one thing. These images, when you click on them, the previews that you see, are all part of the cache. The more images you have, the bigger the cache gets. Every once in a while, you might want to compact the cache. Now, what that does is it will look for things that are no longer necessary. Maybe files that you don't need anymore, files that were taken out of Bridge. But the cache still has the information that can help do it. If you just want to start from scratch, it'll have to rebuild, you can do a purge. And sometimes that's not a bad thing to do. I'll mention one more thing in startup scripts, and that is Adobe Photoshop CS6 Contact Sheet 2 and Picture Package. Those were two items that were really popular several years ago. And for whatever reason, Adobe took them out, and now you have the ability to put them back in. So I would say this one right here, go ahead and check it. That's kind of cool. Let's go ahead and get out of here. We've just had a general run around of the interface of Bridge. But Bridge to me is a very important integral part of consolidating all of your images into one place and then quickly accessing them when you need them. On to the next. As much time as you're probably going to spend inside of Bridge, I think it kind of makes sense to make it your own. Rearrange the furniture. Put the panels together in a way that you want. Now we've got ways up here to change things. I can go into Film Strip, for example. I like that one because it gives you that really big preview. And so that's one you might want to use. We've got one that's focuses on metadata. You got a lot of different ones up here. Now you might not see exactly what I see up here. You might see more or you might see less. This little tab right here, if you click on it, you can move and change what you see. So if you want to see more of these, you can go this way with it. You even have one called Light Table, which I do use a lot too, because it kind of gives you everything, kind of like a contact sheet. So let's go back to Essentials for a sec. Let's make our own. Now I like a bigger preview, but I've got a lot of stuff going on. I've got this area over here and I've got this area over here. Let's do some moving. I'm going to take metadata and I'm going to move it up here. Now, what I'm doing when I do this, see that line come up? That means you're going to move it into that area. And I'm going to move keywords over there too. Just wait for that blue to happen. Okay, now they're both over there. I'm going to take preview and I'm actually going to move it down here. Now we don't need this space anymore because I took everything out of it. So we're going to drag right here and move it all the way this way. And then we'll take this part right here and we'll move it more this way. And then we'll go here and move it that way to get if you want, a bigger preview. So we've created our own space. Maybe we don't use it all the time, but every once in a while we want a space that gives us this nice big preview. So we want to save it. So we go up to the word window on the pull-down menu and go down to workspace. Tell the computer you want a new workspace. And we'll give it a name like Andy's Space, because I need my space. We can save the window locations as part of the workspace, and you can even save, we haven't gotten to this yet, the sort order that you're using. So some of your workspaces could be actually predicated on sorts. Click Save. There it is. It'll come up here in this list. We go back to Essentials, or like I said, I do like Film Strip. That's a nice one. And we need Andy's Space or yours. Just go ahead and click it. It's a very easy thing to do. But like I said, with the amount of time we're spending here, it makes sense to put the furniture and arrange it in a way that we like. On to the next.